Welcome to Quest for Facts. If you enjoy learning amazing facts, hit like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell.
Did you know the word Viking didn't originally mean a person, but an activity? It referred to the act of Vikings, or raiding. But before we get to that, let's dive into the world of the Vikings and uncover 5 fascinating facts about these legendary seafarers. The Vikings, often imagined as brutal pillagers in horned helmets, were much more than just warriors. They were explorers, traders, and even settlers who shaped the medieval world in ways that are still felt today. But where did they come from, and what made them so remarkable? First off, where did the Vikings come from? It's no surprise that their roots lie in Scandinavia, Norway, Denmark, and Sweden. But the real question is, how did they manage to travel so far from home, from the coasts of America to the heart of Europe? Here's a fact to blow your mind. The Vikings were some of the first Europeans to set foot in North America, 500 years before Columbus. Yes, it's true. Leif Erikson, son of the legendary Viking Eric the Red, reached what is now Canada, calling it Vinland. This was around the year 1000 AD, a time when most of Europe was still clueless about the existence of a vast Western continent. Think about it. Long before GPS, long before modern ships, these fearless sailors navigated by the stars, winds, and currents. Their ships were works of art, sleek, long, and capable of both ocean and river travel. The Vikings' knowledge of the seas allowed them to go on raids, discover new lands, and establish trade routes all over Europe. Now onto fact number 2. Vikings weren't just bloodthirsty warriors. They were excellent traders too. In fact, their trading routes stretched all the way from the Middle East to the shores of North America. Picture this: Vikings exchanging fur, slaves, and amber for spices, silver, and even silk. They helped create a network that united the disparate parts of Europe, the Middle East, and Asia. The Viking Age wasn't all about battle axes and longships. It was about cultural exchange and commerce. Here's an interesting question for you. Did Vikings really wear horned helmets? You've probably seen the image in movies or cartoons. But here's the truth. No, they didn't. The horned helmets we associate with Vikings were popularized by 19th century artists and not by the Vikings themselves. These iconic helmets were likely a creation of the Romantic movement, designed to give them a more dramatic, fearsome look. Now let's talk about something more personal. Viking life. Ever wondered how they lived? Vikings had complex societies with laws, customs, and even their own form of democracy. They held assemblies known as things, where free men would gather to discuss important matters and make decisions. These meetings were an early form of democracy, where disputes were settled, laws were created, and even kings were elected. Speaking of Viking kings, here's a fun tidbit. One of the most famous Viking leaders, Ragnar Lothbrok, might be more myth than man. Though his story has been immortalized in both historical texts and TV shows, there's debate about whether he was a real person. What's intriguing is that the legends of Ragnar inspired countless tales of bravery and adventure, showing how the Vikings themselves created myths around their leaders. Let's dive into a true story that's both heroic and tragic. The Battle of Stamford Bridge. In 1066, King Harold Godwinson of England faced a Viking army led by Harald Hardrada. The battle was brutal, with Harald Hardrada's army almost winning. But just as victory seemed near, the English forces pulled off a stunning surprise attack. In a final epic clash, Harald Hardrada was slain. This battle marked the end of the Viking Age in England and was one of the most significant moments in Viking history. Here's a mind-blowing fact. The Vikings had an incredible impact on modern language. Many English words are derived from Old Norse, the language of the Vikings. For example, the word sky comes from the Old Norse word skyer, and the days of the week are named after Viking gods. Tuesday comes from Tyr, Wednesday from Woden, and Thursday from Thor. So what made the Vikings so enduring? Their legacy isn't just in their raids or their settlements, but in their cultural influence. They shaped the modern world in ways we often take for granted. And while they were certainly fierce, they were also farmers, explorers, and community builders who left an indelible mark on history. Before we wrap up, let's ask, which Viking fact surprised you the most? Do you think Vikings were more traders than warriors? Or did you expect their impact on language to be so profound? Let me know in the comments. The Vikings are an endless source of fascination because they were more than just the fearsome warriors of legend. They were adventurers, innovators, and pioneers of their time. And while their era may have passed, their influence lives on in our language, history, and imagination. So the end.
Thank you for watching.